Greetings to you. Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss various aspects of the paranormal and paranormal exploration. I am your host, Keith Johnson, the founder of New England Anomalies Research. And with me is my New Hampshire affiliate, Andrew Graham. Many of you will remember.
Howdy.
Hello, Andrew. And welcome, studio audience. My, we are lively. Andrew, we're so glad to have you visiting with us.
Why, thank you.
You recovered from the Blarney Stone a few years ago.
I have.
Good, excellent. You are still lucky.
Somewhat.
So, introduce the members of your group, or would you like them to introduce themselves?
I think it'd be easier to have them introduce themselves.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Bob Estabrook.
And I'm Jackie Estabrook.
I'm Holly Craig.
And I should mention, these are members of your New Hampshire N.E.A.R affiliate group.
Yep, N.E.A.R, New Hampshire. And that's us.
Tell us what you've been up to. Yes, Great White North.
What have we been up to? We've been pretty much just getting our feet on the ground, building up our group, and just trying to get some cases, get out there and do some investigating.
Great, great. I wish you luck. And of course, we're all one big happy family.
That's right.
We're actually at a N.E.A.R gathering today. All our kindred souls here.
Yes,
all our members.
Absolutely. It's at least some of the members that I remember. Things have changed.
Oh yeah, yeah. Things always change. Things always grow too.
That is true.
That's called progress. Now, yes, the topic we're discussing today is actually cryptozoology, namely local cryptozoology to Rhode Island. And we're exploring the possibility that some creatures along the line of, say, Sasquatch or Bigfoot or even the Yeti could be indigenous to Rhode Island. Could a populace of them possibly be inhabiting Rhode Island, little ocean state here? Or is Rhode Island simply too small? I don't know. Since you are from Rhode Island, what's your opinion, Andy?
Well, quite honestly, I really don't know. I mean, cryptozoology in general, I know there's strange creatures out there that people find every day, but as far as the Sasquatch, everything I've ever heard about them has been, usually wooded or mountainous regions. I would be pretty surprised to find something around here.
Yeah, so some people say, but there have been reports supposedly coming in recently of them being seen here in Rhode Island. So
I've heard some reports, so I guess time will tell. See what there is.
How about you people up in the wilds of New Hampshire? Have you ever heard any reports? Creatures like that?
Not area.
No?
Not in southern New Hampshire. We live near the coast. But anywhere would be up in the mountains.
Right.
White Mountains.
But no definitive reports.
No, I have not heard anything definitive about that, or heard of any physical sighting.
Evidence.
Wow. I'm going to call over and ask Sandra. Sandra, have you ever heard of reports of Rhode Island Bigfoots that could be substantiated?
I have heard the reports. I'm rather skeptical.
There you have it. Sandra is skeptical of the reports. I wonder if N.E.A.R Richard has an opinion on that. Do you have an opinion?
Negative.
Oh, okay.
He has a negative opinion.
Negative
You
opinion.
don't want to hear it.
No, I would think that would be a negative opinion. But I think we should ask the Dualaby, since Lisa has studied anthropology extensively, and she is a veterinarian technician.
And it just so happens she's in our studio audience.
She is?
I think so.
Wow. Well, let's go ask her. Thank you, by the way, for introducing yourselves. It's great to have you all here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Lucky Andrew.
Always a pleasure.
Let's talk to the Dualabys. We're here with Ray and Lisa Dualaby. Hello, Ray and Lisa.
Hello, Keith.
So nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Now, you know the subject we're talking about. I mean, having studied anthropology for quite a few years.
I'm probably going to say no.
Why would you say no?
I would say that the area that Rhode Island consists of would be hard-pressed to support a primate population. Being food supply, civilization, every other type of animal that's indigenous to the area we find as roadkill, so to speak, or in someone's backyard at one point or another, because we're just there's just too many people. So for there to be an indigenous animal, particularly a primate, who have such wide territories, it's pretty unlikely that we would have that kind of a population here, not being aware of it. We do have a lot of woods in Rhode Island, comparatively, but not enough to sustain a viable population of a primate.
You don't think they could come and go, in other words?
I would find it doubtful.
Ray, you've had an experience yourself, though. Possible experience.
Possible, but it's,
And it was in Rhode Island.
It was in Lincoln, Rhode Island. Like there's a golf range, a driving range in Lincoln, and there's this small road, and whatever it was came out in front of the car, and it was upright, but it was so fast. I mean, I couldn't say, what it could be, but it could have been anything. It could have been a deer for all I know on its back legs. Watch out, there's giant bees here too.
Well, they're indigenous to Rhode Island.
They're going to take us one day.
And?
But do you think that has anything to do with, it could be anything that's an unusual creature, or
It's probably
some
over.
kind of cryptid? Or?
It was probably over 20-something years ago, but I don't think it could. Now, knowing what I know now, I don't think it could be anything bipedal or.
Yeah. So, like Lisa, you're skeptical of it.
Yeah. It was just like something you're not used to seeing.
Yeah.
Should have been a bear.
It could have been a bear, but whatever it was.
You say it was
on
upright, though.
It was upright, but then it was so fast that it was. It's one of those moments that you can't discern what it is because you just saw it and it's gone.
Right.
So.
Lisa, what do you say to reports that are coming in, supposedly, of a creature like a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot in Rhode Island?
I mean, it's difficult to say because Ray's right. When it's dark and something's fleeting in front of you, your mind may remember something differently than the actual experience. And sometimes things, when you remember them, seem different than what they really were. Bears can stand upright. They can walk a few steps. So if they were lifting up out of curiosity, that's something. We do have black bears in the area. I guess I'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis to really make a determination of the authenticity of the claim.
I don't know if you've seen the photographs that my brother's taken of alleged footprints in the area of Cumberland around Tower Hill Road. I don't know if you've had a chance to examine any of those.
No, I have not. No. Many of the footprints have turned out to be either hoaxes or different kinds of animals or just certain impressions. They're almost like matrixing. Sometimes people see things that really aren't there because they want to. Again, if you're going to really examine a footprint, you need to look for impressions of prints. You need to look at lines where the digits would be pushing into the dirt. The way
Supposedly
the heel would
they are
hit.
pretty clear, though.
Yeah, I would probably say they should have a biologist or a zoologist examine them if they feel like they really have something authentic.
Right. I think you should examine them, actually.
I'd be happy to look.
And another thing he mentioned was the branches. They're about 7 feet up. There are branches that have been broken off, and kind of a line, almost as if something was running through. I don't know what would cause that or what that's about.
Right. Again, you'd have to see the situation, and things should all fall together. I mean, there's a lot of different explanations for these things. And like I said, Rhode Island's a small place. We do have a lot of wooded areas, but inevitably there's civilization surrounding almost all of them. So it would be virtually impossible for a large primate to inhabit the area without some kind of absolute sighting. That would be indisputable. Somebody would have seen it, found something, that's indisputable.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for your opinion. I don't know if Richard has an opinion, but apparently not.
It's unintelligible.
We have an opinion of Richard, but...
Our director, Richard, and of course we're at our auxiliary North Providence studio once again. So. But now we're going to look at some evidence that these creatures may exist from the actual location itself. Thank you, Richard.
Carl Johnson. I am a paranormal investigator with Beyond the Veil Paranormal, and I am also co-founder of the Big Rhode Research Project. This weekend we are exploring the purported existence of a creature classified as Hominum hylocomium tenebrosus, which basically means dark forest-dwelling man. And his nickname is a play on Little Rhode, Big Rhode. And with me is my esteemed colleague who has driven nearly 12 hours last night to be here, Mr. Don Keating. Don Keating is the director of the Eastern Ohio Bigfoot Research Project, and we're very happy to have him here with us. And we're going to go over to some evidence and have more eyewitness accounts that Don's going to hear. He's interviewing. In fact, Don has already interviewed 2 subjects who have had close encounters with the Sasquatch-like creature here in Rhode Island, Big Rhode. Now, Don, besides me begging you to come here for the last 5 months, what brings you up here to Rhode Island? Why would you come all this way?
Well, Rhode Island to this point in time, or earlier this year, had not had a documented report of a sighting of Sasquatch activity at all. And we had heard of some possible footprints, but not sightings of the creature. So I thought it would be very interesting to come up here, not only meet up with you again, but to see the area and talk to these eyewitnesses and see where the encounters have taken place, and see if we could document the first ever reported sightings of Sasquatch in Rhode Island.
And you've already spoken to Dina Palazzini, founder of Beyond the Veil Paranormal, who had a close encounter, very close quarters, and to my niece's husband, Mr. Sean Robbins. These 2 people didn't know each other before 2 years ago, and yet they have identical descriptions of the creature they saw. And neither one was at night, one was at dusk. Dina's sighting was at dusk, and Sean's was in the middle of the day. Now, let me ask you, could anyone talk you out of the existence of Sasquatch at this point? Can anybody really dissuade you that this creature exists, or that people are seeing some kind of hallucination or mistaking bears or other wildlife for this creature?
No, I don't believe so. I've talked to far too many people that have seen creatures that are similar in characteristic and description. I've seen far too much in the way of evidence in the forest, and I've had way too many encounters while I've been on research to just pass it off as coincidence or otherwise. I think the evidence is compelling. It's there. We just have to, as the saying goes, put all the pieces of the puzzle together in one spot and finally find a solution to this mystery. But no, I'm pretty convinced that something like this exists.
And here we have found tracks, what look like oversized human bear footprints, lacking much of an indent, and a series of tracks in Cumberland, Rhode Island. And there have been eyewitness accounts in West Greenwich, in Cranston, Rhode Island, and in Cumberland, near the watershed in Cumberland, Rhode Island. Now, which was easier for you to do? You were the subject to be interviewed on numerous television programs and radio shows. Which was easier, Monster Quest on History Channel or the Today Show with Kathy Lee Gifford?
Oh, geez. They were both
they're both challenging in their own ways.
Yeah. Let's just say they were a tie.
For their own reasons.
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow we're going to go out into Cumberland, probably Cranston if we could fit that in too. We're trying to do so much in this brief weekend. We're going to go to the setting of 2 of these eyewitness accounts. They're very cogent, very similar, in fact, I'd say identical in what these 2 people saw. A black creature, not brown or reddish. It was black, and both parties saw the face of this creature. Sean saw it quite clearly, and I would recommend you doing a personal interview with Sean Robbins because we've just heard his account. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Carl.
We'll see what we bring back tomorrow.
All right.
Okay, we are here with Mr. Sean Robbins, my niece's husband. Good to see you again. How you doing, bud?
You too, all right.
And Mr. Don Keating.
How you doing, Don?
Howdy. Nice to meet
I'm
you.
already introduced. Now, Sean has a rather interesting experience to share with us. Did you want to ask him a couple of questions about what he saw those years ago?
Sure. Basically, what were you doing that led up to the encounter?
I'll tell you the story. I was about 12 years old. I was out with my cousin. We were on a bike ride. We decided to take a little trail out by the woods. Now, along that trail, there's a big lake on the left-hand side. Okay, so we decided to take this path down, and then instead of staying on the trail with around the lake, we decided to go down a little embankment. So I went first. My cousin was behind me. We went down the embankment. As soon as I went down the embankment, I remember all the sand and the leaves and a lot of acorns were coming down with me as the bike was coming down the hill. So when I got to the bottom of the hill, I looked up, and within 7 feet from me, there was a Bigfoot character standing there. Didn't even make a noise, just staring. What I saw was dark eyes, a really dark nose, and black face, lips. Everything was black. There was no pink like a human's lips, no white in the eyes. Everything was dark. Okay? I was so scared, I didn't even make a noise. I turned around, and with that expression, I knew my cousin saw him too, because I looked up, and my cousin was white as a ghost, as if scared. Maybe he thought I was gonna go, didn't know what was gonna happen. So I turned around, while he started to come down the hill. When he looked up, that's when I think he recognized that there was the creature in front of me. So I turned around, tried to get up the hill as fast as I could. I remember I fell down. I was so nervous. I couldn't get the bike up the hill. The acorns were coming down. When I finally got up the hill, after he was tripping in front of me, kicking dirt down at me, I'll never forget it. There was dirt coming down. I couldn't get up. I was a mess. I turned around to make sure he wasn't going to be right behind me to attack me, and he was gone. The man was gone, and it was so quiet. I didn't hear any logs. I didn't hear him shaking trees, nothing like that. I mean, unless he was hiding behind another tree, that had to be a pretty big tree, because this creature was 7 feet tall, wide, had the caved in chest, hairy, really hairy. Everything was like layers of hair all over him, like chest and the face, and the way he was standing. Let me tell you one thing, when I came down that hill, I'll never forget, he backed up about 3 steps. If I was him, and the way his legs were, he backed up, and his arms stayed the same. He just backed up like this. 1, 2, 3. And didn't move, and did not move, and just looked at me, watched me. And like I said, I went up that hill, and he was gone. That was what I saw that day, about 20 years ago from now. And I'm a type of guy who's not into things that I don't believe. Like, I don't say I don't like them, but I've never seen a ghost to say that I actually believe that there's ghosts, because I physically haven't seen one, but I've seen Bigfoot, and they're really out there. There was one out here 20 years ago.
Now, Sean, this was the middle of the day, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Correct.
How would you describe what you saw for a face on this thing? Was it a human face, animal?
No.
Your own
words. It had
words.
like an ape style, an ape head to it, an ape-shaped head. Okay, but it had dark eyes and a big, fat, black tip to his nose. Okay, and I did not see any teeth on him, but just gums, like standing like that.
After you saw it, did you have any fright? Were you scared?
Out of my mind. I was so scared. I was, like I said, I could not get my bike back up this hill. I was tripping. I had my hairs on my neck were popping up all the way home. I was afraid for my life. I thought he was going to come out of the woods eventually and take me when I got back up to the hill. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I don't know if it was the bike that deterred him from me having an object. I don't know what it was. Like I said, could have been my cousin. He was also there. He had a bike. There was the 2 of us onto the Sasquatch. Something deterred him from taking me. People have asked me if they thought it was a bear. There's no way it was a bear. It was standing straight upright. It would not go down on 4. It was standing straight up, and he had posture straight up. You know, like a soldier. But and the way he just, everything was in one. You see, everything was in one with this character.
So when I consider other possibilities of what you saw, other than a genuine Sasquatch, a cryptid, there really are no other possibilities. We've ruled out man in a costume.
No way.
Because who's going to have a costume back around 1991?
The end of August into September, back in 1991, they didn't make anything that well, that looked that real. And if it was a costume, you could see through the eyes. I seen right to the face. This was it. You know, there was no costume. There was nothing behind the face. It was just whatever it was. Sasquatch.
It was no hallucination because your cousin Chris saw the same thing at
Seen
the same time.
Same creature.
Question is, you were out here a couple weeks ago,
Yes, 2 weeks ago yesterday.
and I'm not sure what happened.
We found numerous slender trees broken at a height of approximately 7 feet. We found a series of cracks that were very clearly defined.
Okay.
Some that were not so clearly defined up in the embankment, but they showed something running downhill.
Okay.
Something heavy, something big, because I tried to reproduce that and couldn't make as much of an impression.
Native Americans used to get a lot of their food from tree nuts, especially the chestnuts. And I'm wondering, when those were all wiped out by the fungus that came over through New York back in the late 19th century.
Could that have produced a population of Sasquatch?
Of anything that relied on that. I mean, acorns you can't really eat because of the tannins. You have to. Native Americans would eat acorns. They actually would farm oak forests, and keep the undergrowth down. Also, it'd be easy to find the acorns. And the thing is, you take the acorns, shell them, break them up, and then you boil them. You get the tannins out, and you boil them once or twice, and you have a very nutritious, almost paste-like substance.
Oh. Would a Sasquatch be able to do that, though?
Probably not. But the thing is, the chestnuts, you didn't have to do any of that stuff to eat.
Right. Well, it would make sense that this also has a subsistence relying on nuts.
Oh, is that part of a wall? I'm looking at it's
Probably part of a wall.
but it's okay. Yeah, it's very, very.
I don't know.
I don't think they've been here that long. No, these are just placed here. I don't know when, but they weren't part of a wall.
Okay.
And I see. Could have been a marker of some sort.
Yeah, I don't know. It just jumped out at me.
Yeah,
It didn't look like it.
Whatever this creature is far closer to our species than it would be to any of the great apes. All of the great apes, chimpanzees, bonobos, orangutans, gorillas, have that splayed toe for grasping. Their feet look like hands. This thing does not. It has a human-like foot. And when people have seen its face, they describe it as strangely human-like.
You could see it around us, and it was making these calls, like the whooping calls, and the trees were swaying wherever it went, these giant trees. And he said at one point he whooped back, and this thing started coming toward them very rapidly. He said it was like a freight train. And
that would be unnerving.
Evidently it realized that they weren't what it was looking for. And he said this stream of gibberish came out of the mouth that he said, and he reproduced it for me. He said, but it sounded like language. He said it wasn't just animal grunts, it sounded like language.
If they are that close to us genetically, then it seems they would try to form some kind of rudimentary language, as Neanderthals probably have. More research is done on Neanderthals. We find that the hyoid bone was placed high enough in the throat region that they could, and under the larynx, that they could communicate, but they would have a limited speech. They couldn't pronounce A-E-I-O-U the way we could. But they would have some kind of language, some kind of verbal communication. And just to survive out here, it would stand to reason that a Sasquatch, being powerful but also being limited in its resources, would need to communicate with its fellows because there are much fewer of them than there are bears or other similar animals.
Well, this man said he had the impression that there was a creature searching for something, and he surmised like one of his own kind, that like we would look for someone in the woods. And when the creature thought that he found what he was looking for, but it turned out not to be so, seemed to be quite angry. And actually started pelting them with stones. And again, unseen. These stones would just catapult through the trees.
Well, what would be a Sasquatch's job description? Pretty much looking for a mate and finding food, because probably, since most of the sightings seem to be of adult males, when it reaches early adulthood, it probably goes off on its own and becomes a rogue male and searches for food and searches for other mates. And it would have to have some kind of communication besides the calls, I would think. So that does stand to reason. Perhaps someday we'll be able to speak back to if we have a clear enough recording, we could play that and see if it attracts anything.
Yeah, you might be interested in having some dialogue with Joe Fex. He's out in Colorado, and he's been pursuing Bigfoot research for some time, and he does believe that they live in communities, that they have a social structure, a language, that they are a genuine society. So you probably
Well, the
compare
great
some
apes
interesting notes.
They're very social. Chimpanzees are supremely social. Gorillas are. They have to be. They have to cooperate to survive. So, but Sasquatch doesn't live in the jungle. It lives in a forest, and usually not too far from the human populace. So it would need that form of sophisticated communication on some level. I can do a Sasquatch howl.
Oh, please.
Want to do one?
Yes.
Okay, as long as our other members know, they'll recognize me. I've done this before. Maybe I could stir up some interest from the big Rhode populace out here. Yeah. It gets loud though. I won't do it too many times because then the neighborhood will be aroused. Well, Cumberland police probably heard it. If anybody else did out there.
That was very good.
Thank you. Something like this. Not definite. Not definite.
Pretty large cleared area of leaves.
What do we see here? Look, this is. It's not definite enough to call a track at this point.
No, if it was, it would have a very narrow heel and it would slam down pretty hard.
Right, just a point of interest.
So, Carl, what are the overall sizes of the tracks that you saw 2 weeks ago?
16.5 inches.
Wow.
16.5 in length.
Yeah, Gene, that's 9 inches. That would be
We actually got
that big.
a bona fide track in Pennsylvania when we went out. It was about 14 inches, and it was at the site where 2 people had an encounter.
Ah, and how big was that?
About 14 inches. Yeah.
Last year, D9 found tracks of 17 inches and 14 inches. Okay. Rosemary, do you want to stand near that so I can just get a perspective? Otherwise, it's just a blob of the Okay.
Let's see, how's...
Okay, add some color to it. See, what does it take for me to do something like that? You really can't.
Well, that's pretty deep. I mean, if you're...
Well, it could have been wet at one time,
yeah,
too.
that's probably not a very
so
fresh... If
narrow.
it's a track, it's probably not.
I mean, it would be so pointy-heeled.
Might. Guys, what's your opinion on this? How much of this is wishful thinking? How much could be a track? See what I'm looking at? I don't want to... Normally I wouldn't contaminate the evidence, but... and I don't want to mess... You saw that? But it's not definite enough that we can really take a casting anyway, so we might as well. I photographed it. Look. Do they eat these things? I don't know. Look at it. All right, I'm going to trace it.
It's a beech nut.
Yeah. I wouldn't eat beech nut if I was a Sasquatch.
This is the area that
So they were
Dina
writing
believes is a
down.
footprint.
But this is it?
Dina believes this
Oh,
might
that's
be a
interesting.
footprint. This might be the heel here. And those toes might be right up in there. We measured it at 15 inches. About 7 inches long.
Okay, so what she sees, toes, stretching down here, these are toes.